about the Renaissance, the rebirth of culture and ideas. And in this video, we are going to talk about an era that has started during the Renaissance, the Age of Discovery, or as else it is known as the Age of Exploration. Let's learn some history today. But why don't we start by looking at some notes, shall we? Let's learn some history. Alright, now that you saw my notes, let's get to our Age of Exploration, also known as the Age of Discovery. Age of Exploration. Oops. Alright, so what is the Age of Exploration? Well, the Age of Exploration is a time from the 1400s to the 1500s. And if you remember our episode in Renaissance, you might remember that the Renaissance started from the 1400s to the 1600s, while the Age of Exploration started from the 1400s to the 1500s. Alright, this is also at the time you might know some of the explorers of the Age of Exploration, like Bartholomew Diaz. You might be pretty familiar with Christopher Columbus, the founder of the Americas. If you're watching from the United States, please tell me that. Alright, let's first talk about Bartholomew Diaz, the founder of the first sea route to India. And also he was able to find the sea route to India because at the time of the Age of Exploration, explorers went around the world they never knew before, mostly Asia and Africa, and made the first maps of foreign continents. Well, let's first talk about Bartholomew Diaz. Bartholomew Diaz. Alright, so who is Bartholomew Diaz? Well, Bartholomew Diaz is a Portuguese explorer. And in 1487, he made the first sea route to India. He went around the Cape of Good Hope, wanted to go to India to here, but his sailors were too scared to go there because they said there were boiling waters. And he also died when he just tried to cross the Cape of Good Hope and also to return to Portugal. And then Christopher Columbus heard of this, and then he wanted to outdo Bartholomew. Right, let's write Christopher's name right here. Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus, you might be familiar with the founder of the America, and the founding of the North, Central, and South Americas was completely an accident. He meant to find a new sea route to India. He thought that the world was round, like this ballpoint, and that if the world was round, then he could go to places by going around it. Let's just say that this world map is round, and also nobody knew about the Americas. So also Christopher Columbus thought that going west would be faster than going east and down, southeast. Just prefer whatever you want to. Alright, so he set out to India, and along the way he found a few islands along the coast of North America. Wait, am I interpreting this right? Oh yeah, I am. Alright, so he found some island and he thought that was India. He just never saw that it wasn't. And then one day Columbus was highly supported by the Queen of Portugal. I don't know, the Spain, not Portugal, that's Bartholomew Diaz. Sorry about that. Spain. The King and Queen of Spain highly supported Columbus. The king didn't matter so much. When he first heard about Columbus's western part, he just said, oh, east is faster. Well, that's true. And when the Queen Isabella, not my girlfriend, heard about this, she highly supported Columbus. 7 years before they gave Columbus full permission, they were having a war, so Columbus had to be postponed. And now after the 7 years, he was finally given 3 ships called the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, if I remember my history books. Right, so he went along the way, lost a few ships, and then he went to his own so-called Indias. And since he saw that he was in India, he called the native people of America Indians. We still call them Indians. You might know what an Indian is from those Indian movies. And well, how did those Indians got there anyways? Well, long ago when all 7 continents were joined together, including Antarctica, the coldest continent on Earth, were joined together, there was a supercontinent called Pangaea. The continent split in 2, and part of it was North and South America. People already went to North and South America because of animals, and then it split, and they lived there for centuries. Alright, Columbus made 4 voyages. In the first voyage, he had to meet with the Indians and get their culture. In the second voyage, he meant to get gold, but he took slaves instead. And on the third voyage, he was just captured and brought back to the Spain Queen and lost his title as governor. But he was allowed to have a 4th voyage, but it was also a failure. And then he was imprisoned after Queen Isabella died. Well, oh yeah. Now that we just talked mostly about explorers, let's talk about the empires of the Americas. So the basic empire, there are 3 basic empires. The first one is the Aztec Empire. E stands for empire. Aztec Empire. It's on Mexico. And they made a lot of pyramids. No, not the pyramids you see in Egypt. Don't get confused with that. These pyramids were kind of like temples. All right. The second civilization was the Mayans. All right, the Mayans. If you see on your world map, you might see a little point up peninsula on the Central America. Central America is the piece of land that connects North and South America. And on that piece of peninsula, it's the Mayan Empire and the land beneath it. It is also part of Mexico, and it is also part of, it's so hard to remember, Guatemala and Belize. Really, Guatemala. That sounds like a fruit. The next empire on our list is the biggest, American Indian empire on all of these 3. You guessed it, it's the Inca Empire. Inca Empire, what should I use? Well, let's just use this. Inca Empire. The Inca Empire is one of the largest empires, and it is in modern-day Peru and Chile. No, not the pepper. If you're wondering where Inca Empire is, it's right this orange sliver, and it is on the Andes Mountains. You can still go to see them even today, and you can also see the ruins of Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is a place where they made their buildings and stone buildings with heavy stones, and they also had a lot of people, but at the 4th time, no. All right. The Machu Picchu is surprisingly built on a high hill. So if you ever try to go to Machu Picchu, you have to stop and take a few breaths before walking another few steps and then doing that same pattern. All right. Now that we talked about the Aztec, Mayans, and the Inca Empire, let's talk about how they were conquered. When the Spanish first arrived in the Aztec, Mayans, and Inca Empire, they saw that they were gods because of their 500 years of timing of a god or goddess would come to their land and visit them. The description looked the same. The description was in blue eyes and blonde hair. And the conquistadors had that description, so the Aztecs were fooled. And the Incas were fooled also, and especially the Mayans. The conquerors conquered conquered these empires easily. Why? Well, the Aztecs, Mayans, and Incas' resistance was low, and the Spanish and Portuguese got better technology. The newest technology of the era were the gun and the cannons. They used them much frequently, and they also had iron weapons, and they had armor. The Aztec, Mayans, and Incas real axes and swords would just break when they tried to hit through that armor. And 90% of the population died in the Aztec, Mayans, and the Incas because of a plague. It's European diseases. The Europeans didn't even knew they were carrying the diseases. They went to these Americas, and accidentally spread their disease. Today we know, scientists say that it might be measles or smallpox. No, not chickenpox, smallpox. Alright, let's stop fooling around and let's get into the important stuff. Now, after the conquering of these lands, Portugal and Spain had a bit of a fight, and so they made a treaty called the Treaty of Tordesillas. They did it in Tordesillas, which is in Spain. Wait, I'll just do this. Oh, wait, that's all. Treaty of Tordesillas. Oops. Tordesillas. All right. There are no two A's. Right. The Treaty of Tordesillas made the Spanish get more land of the Aztec Empire, the Mayans, and the Incan Empire, while the Portuguese had a little amount of that and their own country. This highly expanded the Spanish Empire with their colonies, so they got a bit more strength than Portugal, and they won the war. Oh, and also the Spanish and the Portuguese were not very interested in what was happening in North, Central, and South America because they had their own problems in their own country. Big religious problems that we're going to talk about in our next episode. So, I'll see you then. Shanhan out. Religion. Finished. Oh, it's you. Alright, today's writing is like always the same. The meanings are the same, but let's get started on it. So, number 1, what did you learn about the Age of Discovery? Number 2, are there any stories about how your country began? What did you learn about the Age of Discovery? Put them in the comments below, and I'll just say myself. Alright, myself. 3, 2, 1. What did you learn about the Age of Discovery? Well, I learned that the Age of Discovery is a time that started from the 1400s to the 1500s, and that it occurred during the Renaissance with some proofs from our last episode, and that it was the time when Christopher Columbus sailed to the Americas. Oh, and also it's also the time when Bartholomew Diaz got to get the first sea route to India. It's probably right here. Alright, the next one is, are there any stories about how your country began? Well, there are some stories that how my country began is about a God's son. It's not Jesus Christ, called Juan. As I said earlier, not Jesus Christ. I'm serious this time. And Juan the son's God, wanted to live on earth and asked God if he can, and God said yes. So Juan came down to earth, and then he met a tiger and a bear. They both asked Juan to change them to humans. Juan said that he would do that if they do his task, and his task was to eat garlic and wormwood. Garlic and wormwood for over 100 days. The tiger, just like meat, said, "I can't do it." He just escaped while the trial, but the bear succeeded. Juan changed the bear into a woman. I thought that it would be a man, but a woman. And then he married the bear. married a bear and got a son called Tangun. If you remember our episode 9 of our season 2 series, you might know the Joseon dynasty. Well, Tangun was really the first emperor of the ancient Joseon dynasty. There was a Joseon dynasty before the Joseon dynasty that we talked about in our earlier series. And then he was also known as the Tangun grandfather. And then he established the first country, Korea, my homeland. I'm just a bit proud. Alright, so that's a story about the country began, and it's just a myth. And I'll see you in our extra history. Shinhan out. Alright, today's extra history is about a Viking, the real, true founder of the Americas. Since it's not Christopher Columbus who founded the Americas, who is it? Well, it's a Viking named Leif Erikson. Leif Erikson was the first Viking to ever find the North America and the South America, and he first called the Americas Vinland. How do you? Well, let's use a different color then. He called it Vinland because of its grapes. And he did a lot of things to do it. And we're going to talk about, this is a biography about Leif Erikson. Well, Leif Erikson was a Viking and he always wanted to explore to the outside world. He was the guy who found Greenland, and he got a lot of treasures from British monasteries and gave them to from British monasteries, and he gave the loot to some Vikings. And when he was old enough, his father, Eric the Red, highly supported Leif Erikson, and Leif Erikson went to the Americas. Also, he had a rival, but it's mythical. And also, it is said that Leif Erikson was I think that Leif Erikson, because of his founding of North and South America, is that he had a part of their god Thor. No, I mean, really, they had a god sword, not the Avengers sword though, but they did have a hammer. Also, there was also a kind of tradition that they would throw out statues of some of their gods, and wherever they float was chosen by their gods, mainly Thor. And Leif Erikson kind of did that same thing, and it arrived to North America. So he planted a new civilization there, and he cut a lot of trees, and it is said that it was very abundant. So not because of the grapes, he said it's Vinland. It's also because of the trees. There was a new civilization start in North America, and I think that is how the Aztecs, Mayans, and the Incans got their civilizations of their big stones. They copied the Vikings. If there were any Aztecs or Mayans or Incas. Well, sources disagree on this, but I think that's my theory. What is your theory about how the Aztec, Mayans, and Incas built their civilizations? Put them in the comments below, or just email me directly. Alright, so that's basically all of Leif Erikson, but before we go out, I need to tell you something about the god Thor. Thor, like in the Avengers, he had a hammer called Major, and Leif Erikson wasn't the only guy who worshipped him. There were a lot of Vikings before Leif Erikson who worshipped Thor. And also, they did think of Asgard as a real place. Alright, so this is basically the end of our Leif Erikson, and I'll see you in my next extra history, the next episode. See you then. Shannon out. Major! This video was made by me. It was sponsored by me. The writing of these little glass colors are written by me. The maps were drawn by me. The notes, as you see in the video, was written by me. Even the drawings of this map was by me. The sources of these Hands-on History videos are from the Hands-on History books itself. For this series, we're gonna use the Age of Discovery. And if with the help of my channel Han Chen Chen, I can highly give out videos of educational, and also other things that I might be putting in our future video. And to support my channel is to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and hit the bell button to also wouldn't miss any of my videos. And if I do ask a question, please answer them in the comments below, or just email me directly at 20twar@naver.com. And today's question is, what is the name of the period of time from the 1400s to the 1500s? Is it A, the Renaissance, B, the Age of Exploration, C, the Age of Discovery, or D, B and C? See you then. Chen Han out.